So thank you for coming to our presentation. We are Cultivating Community. My name is Lillian.
I'm Darla.
I'm Josine.
And I'm Sameer.
So as a group, we aim to have young students embrace their cultural differences through ecological education by incorporating community gardens in elementary schools. We seek to promote cultural preservation in gentrifying communities. We want to start off with this quote from author and activist Grace Lee Boggs. She says, "We can begin by doing small things at the local level, like planting community gardens or looking out for our neighbors. That is how change takes place in living systems, not from above, but from within, from many local actions occurring simultaneously." We really love this quote because it emphasizes the importance of community work in creating larger scale change, which is exactly what we'd like to do with our project. As for inspiration, we drew our inspiration from living in San Francisco and witnessing firsthand the negative impacts that gentrification is having on culturally rich communities in the city. And I also have some personal inspiration from going to school in the San Francisco Unified School District and attending a gardening class in elementary school, which I really loved and always looked forward to. But even though it was in a culturally rich neighborhood, it didn't have a cultural connection incorporated into the curriculum, which I think would have made it an even better experience for me.
So as Lillian mentioned, we were inspired by the increasing gentrification happening in San Francisco. So through our project, Cultivating Community, we hope to promote cultural preservation as well as ecological education through the youth in gentrified communities and their schools by incorporating community gardens in the San Francisco Unified School District and including storytelling in their curriculum. So for our project overview, we pretty much just aim to achieve 4 different goals. Our first one was to connect, and by this we wanted to incorporate community gardens by bringing the classrooms outdoors, as well as teaching the youth where and how their food is grown. Our second goal is preservation. So we want to raise and spread awareness about the various cultures in the city of San Francisco and the greater Bay Area through the food and the storytelling that this curriculum would have overall. Our third goal was to build community. So for us, community is a very integral part of our lives. So we wanted to make sure that we also cultivate a sense of community between the schools that we would work with, as well as the respective neighborhoods and their cultures. And our fourth goal is to raise activism. So we know that gentrification is such a huge issue that community gardens cannot solve on their own. So we want to work with the youth and look to the youth as the future of activism. And ultimately, we hope to empower them to create the change they want to see.
As for our target audience, we have 3 main groups that we are looking at. We are looking at K through 5 students because, as Darla mentioned in the previous slide, we see them as the future of activism. And you can kind of see that recently in 2019, where you have the March for Our Lives, which was a student-led demonstration advocating for gun control, as well as the global climate strike, which was spearheaded by young activists all over the world. And we basically want to give them the knowledge to come together and advocate for their rights in regards to their own community and well-being. We also want to look at the cultural clusters in San Francisco. And what we mean by these cultural clusters are the various communities found in SF districts and neighborhoods. For instance, you have the Richmond, which has a high population of Russian and Chinese residents. You also have the Western edition where Japanese and African American communities coincide, and the Soma and Mission area where Latinx and Filipino residents reside. And ultimately, we want to look into these cultural clusters because they are the targets of gentrification, as we've either witnessed or dealt with personally, which is why our project is aimed at them. We hope to empower and connect these communities to reverse the negative effects of gentrification. As for our strategy and approach, Cultivating Community will work as a class for elementary school students where they'll basically learn the basics of gardening and also understand how to prepare their crops to eat. And we also want to bring in this new approach, which we call cultural preservation. And basically this class will also integrate this aspect by allowing members of the surrounding community to volunteer and teach our students how food can bridge together people with different social identities. And ultimately, we would like to celebrate the hard work of our students and community members at the end of the year with a potluck of the food they've grown together, signifying this connection we hope our program can manifest.
Continuing on with what Josine was saying, we've given you all a lot of information, and it's easy to forget the significance or the why behind our mission goal. So as listed on the slide, we strive to provide the youth of gentrified communities with a medium to connect and share their culture. But what exactly does this mean? So we each come from very unique and diverse backgrounds, every single one of us. And we have our own culture and traditions that we've experienced within our own households. By introducing this program and allowing the youth to share their traditions and share their cultures with one another, it allows these beliefs and these teachings to continually be passed on through generations. In addition to that, it emphasizes the importance of cultural and environmental understanding. The environmental understanding comes from the gardening aspect of the class, to where we will be overall more aware of the situation of our earth and how we create crops and things of that nature. But the way we tackle cultural understanding is simply through education. We combat bigotry with education. So if we surround our youth with a diverse array of traditions and customs, it'll raise them to be individuals with a wide perspective. And lastly, it gives a voice to oppressed communities for them to come together and create their own home and be heard amongst themselves. So for how we plan on implementing this, our immediate goal is to implement it within a few elementary schools, as Josine was mentioning, in cultural clusters around the San Francisco Unified School District. Based off these initial implementations, we just want to monitor feedback and essentially refine our program over the first year or two in order to improve any initial hiccups. 2 to 3 years down the road, we hope to partner with environmental organizations. A prime example of that here in San Francisco is Friends of the Urban Forest, who have a very large environmental influence here in the city. So that way we can expand upon our environmental outreach and grow that side of our program. And well down the road, we hope to expand our curriculum to the greater Bay Area. So that way, this isn't just a program that's unique to San Francisco, but rather everyone in the Bay Area can partake in this program in elementary schools all around. And beyond that, we can host larger community-based events. So that way, this isn't something that is just for students that are in elementary school, but rather community events that can be held in large cities all around the Bay Area. That being said, we would just like to thank everyone who's had any bit of an influence on our project, from those that we've interviewed to those that have taught us curriculum over the semester, and to all of you fellow scholars for providing insight and being friends with us throughout this entire semester. So that being said, does anyone have any questions?